selection for the Sim Golf Course irrigation project. We have another travel on page 4. We have another travel for a council member. And then on page 6, we have we have a project associated with the 4 Mile Creek digester expansion project. The council's order of succession would be approved after you select a vice mayor. And then we have accepting the grant, the VOCA grant, also the burn grant, crisis intervention grant. On page 7, just have a revised budget for the Cheney pump station project. And I believe that is it in terms of items. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager.
Thank you.
Any notes of worth from districts 1 through 6?
No notes, but tomorrow's our District 1 breakfast at 9:30 over at Atwater. We'll have some good food. We'll have Scott Ladle, ask him lots of questions. He has lots of answers. Hope to see a lot of people there.
Maybe tell a few jokes.
We'll do that.
If people giving up Saturday shouldn't have to go through that abuse. Mayor, we do have a staff presentation today as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nathan Emery. Thank you.
Well, good morning, Ms. Mayor, Council. I'm going to present to you the Wichita Area Restoration Program. I brought my team with me. This is both the court leadership team and 2 of my clerks who work in the WARP office. So they're the ones who are out there doing the work for this program. So, roadmap. I want to share the kind of inspiration for the program, local data that informed the creation of the program, and then go over the program itself. So, at the beginning, we looked at the DEER program, the Durham Expunction and Restoration Program out of Durham, North Carolina. That provided a lot of context and idea to proceed with a program, a similar program here in Wichita. They focused on working on driver's license restoration and expungements in their community. But they have really different laws than we do and have very different court structures. So we looked to tailor something to meet the needs of Wichita, to meet the needs of our citizens. So we first looked at our local data. So this is what we were looking at back in 2022. There are 227,000 suspended drivers in Kansas. And something that's really interesting is that number had doubled from 2027 with a population that had only gone up by 3%. So it's a problem that was accelerated. We were seeing more and more suspended drivers. 25% of those suspensions were in Sedgwick County with only 19% of the population. And 70% of those suspended drivers were suspended for failing to meet financial obligations. And so those are the numbers specifically coming out of our court. So we looked at our court data and saw that we had a lot of suspensions going back a long time. So up the left-hand side of the screen got 2022, and you see we got 2,000 suspensions hanging out from 1997. So folks are getting suspended and staying suspended for a very long time. Breaking that down by a pie chart, you see that 54% of the suspensions of the individuals suspended in 2022 had been suspended for more than 10 years. They do, there are fees that get added, there are fees that, you know, there's collections fees. No problem at all. Feel free to ask questions. So typically what the real snowballing process is that once you're suspended, you get more charges. And so then you've got another case, and it more than, you know, doubles, or it adds on each time you have another police interaction. And so that's where the real snowballing and the real compounding happens. I've talked to drivers who've had, you know, they've said, I've been pulled over and I've gotten charged 67 times for driving on a suspended license. That's one of a person I interviewed. So, I mean, that's a lot of snowballing after an initial police interaction that wasn't taken care of and created a financial suspension. But here you can see, at least in 2022, the majority of people owed between $500 and $1,000. Interestingly, and I don't have the slide up for that one, and I can provide it later because the colors didn't match up and made it confusing. These programs have shifted this so that the majority now own between $0 and $500. So really a substantial change where that big orange part that's for 500 to 1,000 has shifted to the 0 to 500 through the work of the court and through the work of WARP. So, but that's what we were looking at when we were creating the program. So we put together a steering committee of people who work in this environment and put forward the issue and had 4 meetings to kind of to develop an idea of how we could approach this in Wichita and create something that would work for Kansas and work for Wichita specifically. And out of that, we identified that it should operate under existing law, be data-driven. We used a steering committee and focus on best practices. So we created the Wichita Restoration Program. We contracted with Kansas Legal Services. They provided limited representation legal services. And we found a lot of information to iterate from. The relationship didn't work out as well as we had hoped. And a big part of that is because it's legal services and because of their portfolio of work in our community, they had to conflict check everything. And it made the intake process very long. And so the people who were coming in who wanted help weren't getting it on the day they needed help. And so we ended up mutually parting ways, saying this isn't going to work. We stepped back, we looked at the information that we learned, and we identified that the assistance needed to be accessible when sought. The majority don't necessarily need legal assistance, and that the service must reduce rather than create barriers to the reinstatement tools that our legislature has given us. Because there's been substantial legislation over the last 4 years to give access to tools where there were no tools before. Tools for fee, fine, and cost forgiveness, tools that give people relief where the only relief before was just to pay fully and satisfy everything. So we iterated, we created what we kind of call WARP 2.0, and that's what we're operating in right now. And that focuses on information assistance and clerical assistance. And so we stepped away from the legal assistance, recognizing that there's a community that can do that. And we tried to fit a niche where we're rapidly helping people understand what's holding their license and providing them clerical assistance to utilize the tools to access relief. So, WARP 2.0 is up on the 3rd floor of City Hall in this building. We've got 1 customer service clerk in there. The hours are as stated. And so we moved away from a contract that was about $156,000 to a program that just utilizes the staff that we have. So this is and a very inexpensive program for the city because we took it out of staff and we put a person up there to work with individuals every day, except during lunches, of course. But we've moved. Sorry, what was that? So we had kind of a soft opening early this year, I think in January. And then we ended up having to close down for the cyber attack. As we recovered from the cyber attack, it remained closed for about 2.5 months, and then reopened. So if you look at full operation, we really consider it to have been open about 6 months of this year. So still a relatively new program, and we're still evaluating how it performs. It offers 3 services: clerical staff, first poll, a driver's license record, highlight what's holding a license so someone can understand it. If anyone's ever looked at a driver's license record from Driver Solutions, it's not really understandable on its face. You actually have to refer to a 3-page coded document to understand the codes that are within the driving record and know what kind of suspension, what's being held. Is it a sanction? Is it something else? And so this team helps folks understand that public record so that folks know what is holding their license. Then, if they have an articulable manifest hardship, they help these individuals fill out a motion for fee, fine, and cost forgiveness in municipal court and in the Sedgwick County Traffic Court. If it's within the municipal court, it's filed upon signature. If it's in the traffic court, they give it to them, they take it across the street, file it themselves. Additionally, staff members will look at the record and see just on the face of it whether they believe them to qualify for a hardship license, a restricted license, help them fill out that application to get that license. So, the results. In the 6-ish months that we've been operating, we've had 234 participants with 776 cases. So 210 people have received relief along with 653 cases. Interestingly, of all of the cases that have moved through municipal court that's received relief, granted, this has only been open 6 months, 36% of those moved through this office, which I think is pretty astounding. We've gotten tremendous feedback from practitioners, from some of our activists in the community that they really like what we're doing and are trying to move people to our office. And we've seen, a lot of people with suspension, out of the 234, we've got 201 that have had a suspension lifted, and 564 cases with suspensions lifted. And 66 people, 28% of the people who came through the office can now legally drive. Now, that's a moving target because that includes restricted licenses, and some people, I can tell you, I've talked to people who have gone through the office, gotten their license back, and then gotten revoked. And so, things are still happening. If someone pleads to 3 major violations within a 3-year period, you can get your license back, you can satisfy all of the suspensions, but you're still going to get revoked, and that was the circumstance for that individual. So a lot of really positive things. I'm personally very impressed with the percentage of people moving through that office. I know that our judges are sending a lot of people out of the courtroom. We got a lot of positive feedback through the the social media posts to attract folks. We've helped as many as 120 people in a month. That was our high. Now we're back down to probably an average of about 70, and we're looking to still work to get more people coming through that office because they have a very positive experience and positive outcomes through that experience. So where do we look to go? We look to grow utilization through advertising and more partnership with the county court, getting their folks to walk across the street and come in and get some assistance. We're looking at how we use substantial compliance under SB 500. That's one of last year's laws that passed. and how we can incorporate that to help people understand how they can come into substantial compliance. And so we're still developing those definitions because it's not really laid out within the law. We plan to re-engage the steering committee, because we've changed our format, and we want to make sure that we're still serving the needs of the community and get feedback from those who operate in that space and have insights that we could benefit from, and also explore additional services. It may be a possibility that we could look at expanding into expungements and assist people there. So looking at what fits the portfolio of work there and how we can best help people using the resources that we have and that we've allocated to this program. So I wanted to bring the staff that comes and works in the program. They've done such great work. I've gotten tremendous feedback from attorneys and the individuals that have gone through the program. I've interviewed a few of them, and they're just shocked that the city is out there caring for them and helping them be successful in something that they find incredibly difficult. And navigating suspensions is incredibly difficult. So they are doing yeoman's work, and I just wanted to recognize them for the great work they're doing for the city of Wichita. And if you have any questions, I'll stand for those.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. Thank you, Dr. Emery. I'm always going to say doctor. Appreciate the work that you all do. This is one of the programs I've been really excited about. I remember when we were talking about it, now seeing the results of it. As you look into expanded additional opportunities, I think I was bugging you, it was either you or Dante about it, but are you maybe considering an annual or biannual amnesty type opportunity where you can do expungements and maybe some other services to maybe address some of those other issues that people have?
So we're always looking, so what we are looking at is like an annual warrant out date where we look back at our cases that we think are unprosecutable, where time has made it so they aren't going to proceed. And one of the things that SB 500 does is that it allows people to get their suspensions lifted for substantial compliance. Well, if you look at the law relative to suspensions, if you have your case dismissed, or even if you win and are acquitted, if you got suspended for failure to come to court or failure to pay, that reinstatement fee survives dismissal and survives acquittal, as does the suspension. What Judge Jones is going to do and is allowing us to do is for those cases that don't have a balance, so those cases that go through a warrant out date or those cases that have an acquittal, she's going to find that they are in substantial compliance. And so that's actually going to relieve. It has the possibility, I need to take another look at the cases. So last time I checked, it looked like there was roughly 2,000 plus people in that circumstance with roughly 5,000 cases.
Wow.
And we haven't done an outdate in a while, so we're planning on doing an outdate. So there's the opportunity to have substantial relief. I know we've talked about, hey, what are the mass relief opportunities? Because that's what North Carolina did. We didn't have any mass relief opportunities. So this is really the first opportunity that kind of falls into a mass relief opportunity. And so we plan on executing on that.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
It's one thing to talk about the numbers. Do you have any stories that you want to talk about in terms of what the impact it's made on people? Anything that stands out?
Actually, I have this thing when everybody comes in, they sit down with me, they're very, very bogged down about the entire process. And when I run their report, and I'm like, hey, she's in smiling, it's not so bad. And they're kind of, are you sure? Yeah, because here's your situation. And when I break everything down for them, and then when they come back and they're done and they're paid off, then they have to do a happy dance for me.
And I'll say, it's a really intimate experience. It's really, you know, like they are working with people going through really hard things across the table, talking about hard life experiences, and trying to help them. And you know, I'm so happy every time I walk by that office and see folks in there, and they're in there a lot. Seeing that they're working through those issues, because it's not easy work. It's really hard to understand for a layperson those driving records. And you know, even if we've got great relief tools, if you don't understand what you have to do or how to access them, then they aren't there. And so this team is providing access to the tools in a way that wasn't there before. Oh, no, people can walk in, you know, come in City Hall, you know, we have full access, and we really hope we get more walk-in traffic. We get a lot of traffic through court-involved people. We've seen some traffic from people who are walk-ins, and we look to get more traffic from the county traffic court and get people walking across the street.
How do you find out, or what have you heard from those who just walk in, how they found out about work?
Right now, it's social media.
Okay, so I know that one of the mentions was advertising, as well as, I think it was Sedgwick County was the other partnership, but it seems like is it just, it's not even paid social media,
No.
right? It's just people are just talking amongst themselves.
And we're also, I think, also engaging the steering committee provides that opportunity to more access folks who are operating and working in this space, to give them a better understanding of what it is to refer people. You know, I've worked with the racial profiling committee, and I've given them a bunch of flyers and information. I know they've come by several times now to get more flyers to be able to hand out to people, to get people in the door. So we're always excited to see people wanting to advertise for us, wanting to help people access these services.
Do you work with Second Chance?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So we have staff members there every day. We take a register. We allow people to make payments there. So we work extensively with Second Chance.
So the city of Wichita does have a TikTok. You could do a TikTok and those happy dances.
Absolutely, I would love to.
Well, thank you so much.